Hello, I'm Agacho. Welcome to Myanmar Today Review, and this is where we revisit the top stories from this week from Myanmar Today. Here are the reports from our reporters from this week. Fourth session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicks off. State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi inspects voters' lists in Nay Pyi Taw. China's booming live streaming platform helps economic recovery. Traditional bamboo lantern market hopes market recovery in coming dry season. Yangon making progress in market upgrades. Before we get to the reports, let's take a look at the featured local news from this week. The local residents in Budalin Township are growing banana with the use of water irrigated from river pumping project in Budalin Township, Mongyua district, and this project has created jobs for the villagers to enable the latter to earn daily income, according to the wage laborers. Previously, the farmers were growing the crops depending upon the rainwater. After the government has implemented the river pumping project, the local farmers can enjoy a sufficient supply of irrigation water to grow the banana plants. So the banana cultivation has created job opportunities for the local villagers who are now earning the daily income. The value of Myanmar trade with China through maritime trade channels totaled over $9.17 billion in October and June of 2019 and 2020 financial year, including $4.03 billion worth of exports and $5.13 billion for import, according to the data released by the Ministry of Commerce. Myanmar primarily exports agro products to China through the borders. However, trade of agricultural products is frequently halted on account of China clamping down on illegal trade in border crossings. China has been stepping up border control measures to contain the spread of the coronavirus, causing traffic congestion in the border areas of two sides and delays. Heirloom beans and butter beans are traded well in Mandalay market as the demand by China rises. Earlier, the market of those beans was cooling in the early outbreak of the coronavirus infection. In recent days, the market raises its head again on account of China's strong demand on butter beans and heirloom beans, said Mandalay traders. The heirloom bean currently fetches 57,000 kyats per 3-basket bag. The price is up by 500 kyats as against July's rate. Meanwhile, the cost of the butter beans has remained unchanged at 54,000 kyats per pack. Foreign investments of $116.557 million have flowed in the special economic zones under the Special Economic Zone Law as of July end in the 2019 and 2020 financial year since October 2019. The figures are released by Directorate of Investment and Company Administration. Since its establishment, over 110 enterprises from 18 countries and 4 local businesses have plowed in nearly $2 billion as of July end 2020 in the zones. While the manufacturing sector has absorbed the largest share of foreign investment, FDI has also flowed into the trading, other services, transport and logistics, real estate and hotel sectors. And I believe it's time now for our first report. The fourth session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong is to take place from the 19th to 21st of August at Myanmar International Convention Center in Nay Pyi Taw, and the opening ceremony was held in the morning of the 19th of August. The President, State Counsellor, Vice Presidents, government officials, temple officials, EAOs that signed NCA, political parties, and invited guests attended the ceremony. Thora Suizin has more.
The opening ceremony of the fourth session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicked off at Myanmar National Convention Center 2 in Nay Pyi Taw on 19th of August. Those present at the ceremony were President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, U Win Myint, Chair of National Reconciliation and Peace Center NRPC State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi, Vice Presidents U Myint Sui and U Henry Bantiu, Speaker ofပြည်သူ့လွှတ်တော် U Ti Kum Yet, Speaker of အမျိုးသားလွှတ်တော် Man Win Khai Then, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Myanmar, union ministers, government officials, NCA-signed EAOs, leaders and representatives, political parties, ambassadors, and invited guests. After the performance of the song entitled Essential Peace, Necessary Peace by a group of peace youths from Gaya State, State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi delivered her opening remark.
Peace
building is beyond better future of the Union and the citizens. Peace building does not mean just the ceasefire of the conflicts. It has to completely cut off the wrong political culture of weapons and armed force being only effective and successful mean. The end of the political belief of depending on weapons and armed force, and the end of what makes this spirit can only be the successful peace building. We have to build the new culture of making concessions. Our country has already suffered over 70 years of internal conflicts, which led to direct and indirect impacts. During over 70 years, we had faced with losses worth of trillions of jets, and the future and lives of the citizens had vanished. We are now here at the junction and we have two ways to choose. Will we keep walking that wrong path, or will we choose the new path of peace building? Whatever we choose, I want to remind to think of the next generation of ethnic youths of our country who will be living in our future union.
State Counsellor also mentioned about the peace processes beyond 2020, which include national reconciliation and internal peace building, democracy transition and establishment of federal union and amendment of the Constitution. After the speech of the State Counsellor, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Myanmar, Chairman of Restoration Council of Shan State, General Yusit, and Shan Nationalities League for Democracy Vice Chairman Wen Sai Nyunlin also delivered the remarks. Chairman of Restoration Council of Shan State, General Yusit, expressed.
During the past sessions of the Union Peace Conference, as we failed to compromise and as we still had doubts between two sides, it was not possible to develop the agreements of the Union Peace Accord as much as expected. We have to prepare for betterment in the future from learning these past experiences. If we look at the history, there were armed conflicts because they were not intended to solve the politics by political means. But now we're on the way of keeping on holding peace dialogues and meetings. After several discussions, we have advanced the Phase 3 of Union Peace Accord, which is to be presented at this conference. In the future, we have to work together to overcome the challenges and difficulties to implement the NCA for ensuring long-lasting peace.
In October of 2015, 8 ethnic organizations EAO signed for National Ceasefire Agreement (NCA), and in February of 2018, 2 more EAOs became their NCO signatories. The first session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong was held in 2016, the second session in 2017, and the third session in 2018. The fourth session has been in progress from 19 to 21st of August 2020.
That's the report on 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicking off. As the deadline for the correction or other amendment in the voters list had been expired on the 14th of August across Myanmar, the State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi inspected the voters list in Nay Pyi Taw Council area on the 14th of August. Williamson has details.
As the general election is set to be held on 8th of November, Union Election Commission has been working hard in making sure that every eligible citizen has their names written on the voter list. The voter lists were first released to the public on 25th of July in different places of Myanmar, and the public were given till the 14th of August to report on the voter list or correction to the list. Therefore, on 14th of August, State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi also went to different places in Nay Pyi Taw Council area where she inspected the voter list. The State Counsellor also came to Zayat Ward polling station of Zabudiri Township where her name was actually released. She briefly inspected the voter list and then she left after waving to the public who were waiting to see her. Uteba is the chairman of Zayat Ward Subcommission and speaking to MI Radio about the situation of voter list for Zayat Ward, and he said,
In our ward, we have two polling stations, number 1 and number 2. The polling venues will be number 5 Basic Education High School, where polling station number 1 has 2,001 voters, and the polling number 2 has 2,040 of eligible voters. So this makes we have a total of 4,041 voters in this ward. If we are to categorize voters between males and females, there are 1,957 male voters and 2,084 female voters in this ward. So we have a higher number of women who will be casting their votes in the upcoming general election. We have first announced the voters list from 25th of July, urging the public to check whether their names are in the list or not, so that if there is mistake, we can correct those mistakes in time till the 14th of August. We have 1,757 people who are asked to fill the Form 3 request because their names were not included in the list, although they are eligible to cast the votes. We have another 87 persons who have refilled their forms with the Form 4C amendment as instructed by the Union Election Commission, and another 99 persons who are asked to remove their names from the voters list under Form 4 objection.
the reason why the voter list to fill the Form 4 objection is their names have been released twice in two different places, probably where they originally come and their current place. So as they can only cast the votes once, they need to remove their names from the voter list where they don't currently reside, or they will not be going there to cast the votes. So it has mostly to do with migrant workers from both the government sectors and private sectors, but sometimes it can also be due to the person who has already passed away. For the place like Nay Pyi Taw and Yangon, where most of the people are employees coming from different parts of Myanmar, their names might be released twice, once in their native places and the other one in their current place. So they need to fill the Form 4 amendment to remove the names from one of the voter lists. But they still need to receive the documents from respective officials that their names have been removed in one of the polling places and they are to vote in where it is not removed. Uteba also explains more on the current situation of the public interest in casting the votes.
We have seen that the public are very much interested in casting the votes. We have nothing to do with their choice on whom to vote for. Knowing that they have to cast their vote on 8th of November, we're doing our best to make sure everything is right.
Tu Yiwin is one of the staff who is working at Myanmar Lotto, and she came to see her name on the voter list and she said,
I have no issue with my name in the voters list so far, along with all of my family. All of their names are included in the list. But I know some of my friends whose names are not included in the list, but we are working on it too.
That's a report on State Counsellor Aung San Suu Kyi inspecting voters lists in Nay Pyi Taw. As part of the e-commerce in China, the live streaming boom has become widespread among the consumers amid the COVID-19 closure and lockdown. The live streaming provides an opportunity for the sellers to interact with the potential buyers without gathering and physical contact. That also helps the farmers and fisheries in poor regions to sell out their products amid COVID-19. Tora Suisi has more.
Globally, the consumer behaviors have changed with the emerging e-commerce. The e-commerce culture is boosted by the global pandemic COVID-19. Especially in Asian countries, most of the traditional retailers have to switch to e-commerce sales. One popular trend on e-commerce market is live streaming. Not only for gaming and entertainment, live streaming becomes an option but also for seeking new products and promotions. Live streaming is like television shopping, which is a real-time broadcast with presenters trying the products. Viewers can immediately purchase the item from an embedded link online. Especially in China, the live streaming boom has become widespread among the consumers amid the COVID-19 closures and lockdowns. The live streamers go through different streaming platforms, and online sales of physical commodities surged by about 36% during the period of the pandemic. During the holiday, the e-commerce live streaming sessions doubled. Masood Tamu from CRI Myanmar Department of China Media Group added more information on it.
COVID-19 ကြောင့်ဖွံ့ဖြိုးလာတဲ့စီးပွားရေးကတော့ e-com သွယ်ရေးတွေဖြစ်ထွန်းတိုးတက်လာတယ်လို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်။ကိုဗစ်ကြောင့်ဒီခီးလမ်းကြောင်းတွေပိတ်နေတဲ့ကာလမှာပေါ့နော်ကုန်ပစ္စည်းတွေကို online ကနေကြီးညာပြီးတော့ရောင်းချမှုတွေဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံအနှံ့ခက်စားလာခဲ့တာတွေ့ရတယ်။ဒါကြောင့်ကုန်ပစ္စည်းထုတ်လုပ်မှုတွေကိုအသွင်ပုံစံသစ်နဲ့ထုတ်လုပ်ပြီးတော့ digital စီးပွားရေးလုပ်ငန်းကိုတိုးမြင့်လှုံ့ဆော်ဖို့ပေါ့နော်။ကုန်ထုတ်လုပ်မှုအသွင်ပုံစံတွေပြောင်းလဲဆန်းသစ်ပြီးတော့လောက်ကင်လာကြတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။အထူးသဖြင့်တော့ဒီစင်းရဲတဲ့ဒေတာကစိုက်ပျိုးရေးကုန်ပစ္စည်းတွေကိုပေါ့နော်နာမည်ကြီးကမ္ပဏီတွေကနေဓာတ်ရိုက်ထုတ်လွှင့်ရောင်းချမှုတွေလုပ်ပေးတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။9နာရီကြာစတူဒီယိုဓာတ်ရိုက်ထုတ်လွှင့်မှုတစ်ခုပေါ့နော်အားပေးကြည့်ရှုတဲ့ပရိသတ်ကဆိုရင်ဘယ်လောက်ရှိလဲဆိုရင် 38.8 တန်းရှိခဲ့တယ်။နောက်ဘယ်လောက်ရောင်းရတယ်လဲဆိုရင်တော့စုစုပေါင်းရွှန်ပေါ့နော် 17.29 တန်းအထိရောင်းချခဲ့ရတယ်လို့သိရပါတယ်။ဒါကတော့ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံရဲ့ COVID-19 ကြောင့်ဖြစ်ထွန်းလာတဲ့ရောင်းဝယ်ရေးပုံစံသစ်လို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်ရှင်။
As agriculture and fishing industries have also suffered greatly, farmers and fisheries in northeastern China are turning to e-commerce and agro-technology to help make up for the losses. When many traditional retailers working on live streaming platforms, it becomes a developed as well as competitive market, and brands and products are promoted through a personalized approach. Not only the individual businesses, but also an increasing number of companies is marketing their products through live streaming platforms. The live streaming provides an opportunity for the sellers to interact with potential buyers, answer their questions, and show their products without having gathering or physical contests. This boosts the economy during the outbreak of the global pandemic.
That's a report on China's booming live streaming platform helping economic recovery. Traditional handmade objects have to rely on 12 seasonal festivals and market demand. Among the handicrafts, those who are making traditional bamboo lanterns are expecting a speedy market recovery. It was reported by Zueman and Pieding.
Traditional handmade objects have to rely on 12 seasonal festivals and market demand. Among the handicrafts, those who are making traditional bamboo lanterns are hoping a speedy market recovery. Out of the traditional seasonal festivals of Myanmar, the Dinzo event with a lighting festival is a significant milestone, and important symbols are paper lanterns as well. Paper lanterns are regularly made in Waso, that means August, but this year there are no orders yet, and the market situation for handicrafts have come to an almost stop. Since childhood, traditional bamboo lanterns have been made, but the current moment of 2020 is the worst for those who are doing for a living by making traditional bamboo lanterns. It was by Upule, a maker of traditional bamboo lanterns.
အရက်ထဲခေါ်တာပေါ့အရက်ထဲကတော့သိမလာကြသေးဘူးတူတယောက်မှမလာသေးဘူးအဲ့လို CD မတို့ Ocean တို့ကတော့စပြီးပေါ့စပြီးလုပ်ခိုင်းတာပေါ့သားရော
The orders haven't come yet, but City Mart and Ocean shopping centers are in preparation of placing orders. Last year, our business started when the Lent set in. We had started touching raw materials. This year it depends on orders. If we received the advance payment, we expect to start after buying raw materials. The raw materials will increase in price, but the price for paper lanterns can't be raised much. It will be okay if it's like 1,100 paper lanterns. The paper lanterns from China enter our country through borders. We're going on working with the paper lanterns because of our hobby. Now we're still facing the slow outbreak of COVID-19. We are making the lanterns despite worry for COVID-19. We're making larger lanterns at the time when the COVID-19 was found in March. We had to stop our business in April. From the Zhangdai, we have been making the lanterns and have stopped in April. I wish the COVID-19 spread will be slower and the business will return to recovery.
ဟုတ်ပါတယ်ဥတို့လည်းအဲ့လိုမျှော်လင့်နေတာမျှော်လင့်ပါတယ်ကောင်းပါစေလည်းဆုတောင်းပေးပါတယ်ဒီလို
Bagaya in Jimyadai Township of Yangon region and its environs are packed with the lantern makers and those placing orders this time every year. The market situation is decreasing a little year after year. They earn a living by doing handicraft activities for festivals, events, and ceremonies in the non-endangered period. The COVID-19 outbreak is timed to coincide with the period of the festivals. Since then, the handicraft works had to come a stop, and numerous difficulties still remain. Dawson Sanu is the owner of Paugam Myanmar Handicraft Shop, and she spoke to MI Radio.
မြန်မာမှုလုပ်ငန်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ဒီအချိန်ကမိုးရင်းဆိုပေမဲ့နည်းနည်းပါးပါးလုပ်လို့ရသေးတယ်လေ
During this year, Myanmar handicraft and paper lantern are not going well. Although now is the rainy season, work can start with a few orders. The paper lantern is the same matter as well. Orders are coming this time in the past, but now they have not come yet. Because of the COVID-19, we haven't received any orders so far. Restrictions have been imposed not to carry out festivities and hold social events during the outbreak of COVID-19. Now the spread of the virus has slowed down and the people hope for the festivities and events. Those wishing to hold almsgiving ceremonies are hoping almsgiving ceremonies. The restrictions on mass gathering of the government are still in effect. Now is the season of offering wazo robes to members of Sangha. Myanmar people are fond of holding almsgiving ceremonies.
When bamboo lanterns are made, jatang and waya bamboos have to be used as raw materials. Last year, the price of a bundle of bamboo was 2,500 Jas to 3,500 Jas. The price of the one sheet of beautiful paper was 130 Jas to 250 Jas. Lantern makers are worried about the possible rise of price for other related materials. They are hoping their market recovery overcoming such difficulties.
That's a report on traditional bamboo lantern market, hoping market recovery in coming dry season. Under the guidance of the Yangon Region Government, Yangon City Development Committee, YCDC, is working to maintain and upgrade the markets within municipal area of Yangon. There are 184 markets in 4 districts of Yangon, and the YCDC opened for a market operator system that any market the investors want to invest in.
When shaping up Yangon in terms of urban characteristic, the role of traditional markets stands as necessity to place the emphasis. There are 184 markets in 4 districts of Yangon, which are identified as A, B, C, and D levels. There are also tax-free markets. In East District, there are 54 markets, including 1 tax-free market. 28 markets in West District, including 2 tax-free markets. 41 markets in South District, including 1 tax-free market. And 61 markets, including 3 tax-free markets in North District. Under the guidance of the Yangon Region Government, Yangon City Development Committee (YCDC) is collaborating with private companies to perform the upgrading of the markets. Dr. Nay Pyi Taw, member of the YCDC, explained about the upgrading system for the markets.
ဈေးတွေကိုအဆင့်မြင့်တင်တဲ့အခါမှာလည်းပဲစောစောပြောသလိုပေါ့တချို့က BOD စနစ်နဲ့ရှိတယ်နောက်တစ်ခါကျတော့ကို
When upgrading the markets, we call for BOD system or implement by YCDC. When upgrading the BOD system, we call the private companies for tender. Then it is also necessary to negotiate between the sellers and the company, demonstrating what kind of market the sellers want and how the company can adjust. For every project, we are working under the guidelines of Yangon region government. We prioritize transparency, fair price, and sellers agreement. At every market, we design market operator system. Some markets need immediate repair, and then we utilize our own budget. For the upgrading of huge projects, we have to take time with the legitimate frame.
Currently, Mingla Market and Damwe Market have already been contracted with the companies for upgrading. Udan Zenton, Deputy Director of Markets Department of YCDC, explained more.
At present, we are upgrading the Mingla market and it has now completed 50% of the construction. Also for the Damwe market upgrading, the responsible company and the YCDC are working for area clearance and moving the sellers to the temporary market. In other market, the YCDC is carrying out maintenance within the allowed annual budget. Previously, the markets were only built on plain land, but now concrete floor is built and it becomes easier to clean the market.
In March of 2020, the YCDC has opened for the market operator system in the remaining markets except the currently upgraded ones. Until May of 2020, 14 companies have submitted the EOI expression of interest applications to invest in the markets.
Under the guidance of Yangon region government, we are striving to upgrade our markets in accord with international standard. We apply market operator system in order to reduce the expense from the annual budget. The companies can invest in the markets of Yangon excluding the currently upgraded ones. 14 companies propose to invest in 16 markets. The committee forming with the relevant organizations, associations, and experts are to review the profile for the companies who submitted the EOI for further processes.
The proposed markets to be invested in are from Tinganjong Township, Line Township, South Oklaba Township, North Oklaba Township, Shuebida Township, Dobong Township, Mingla Daunyo Township, Behan Township, Dala Township, Dakeda Township, Dainji Market 4, and Sambia Night Market. YCDC is acting as the negotiator and supervisor between the sellers and the companies. As part of boosting the market facilities, during the outbreak of COVID-19, manpower was reinforced. 669 basins were placed at the markets, and 50 thermometers were distributed to the crowded ones as well. That's all about Yangon making progress in market upgrading.
That's a report on Yangon making progress in market upgrade. Now to international news. The number of people in employment with place of work in Germany decreased seasonally, adjusted by 1.4% compared to the previous quarter to around 44.7 million in the second quarter of 2020, the Federal Statistical Office announced on Tuesday. Due to the COVID-19 crisis that struck Germany in March, an extraordinarily large decline has been observed instead of an increase this year, according to the provisional calculations by the studies. It was the largest decline since German reunification, said the office, which noted the employment figures in Germany would usually rise strongly in quarter two due to the spring upturn. Spanish public debt rose to a record high of $1.53 trillion in June, mainly lifted by spending linked to the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, data from the Bank of Spain showed on Tuesday. The total debt rose by about $38 billion from the previous month, pushing the debt to GDP ratio to 110%, according to Reuters calculations based on quarterly economic data released by the National Statistics Institute late last month, from just below 100% as of the end of the first quarter. After a lengthy investigation, an UN-backed court has found members of the Hezbollah group guilty of involvement in 2005 assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri.
After that assassination in 2005, this country fell into sectarian divisions. Hezbollah, which is believed to be these four operatives behind this assassination, they represent the Shiite faction. That versus the Sunni factions within this country. There are other different groups, and that sectarian, those divisions are so strong in Lebanon that they play out in government, they play out within society, and the concern is that going down the pike, in the past, sectarian violence certainly has played a huge role in Lebanon. Going down the pike, depending on this investigation and where it heads around the explosion, not the tribunal, but the explosion that took place 2 weeks ago, analysts predict that possibly the country could fall into another round of sectarian violence.
The United States has recorded more than 5.4 million coronavirus cases. As schools there prepare to reopen, new data shows a spike in infections among children who were initially thought to be more immune to the virus. Hospitalizations are also on the rise. Karina Huber reports on what could be driving the uptick.
The coronavirus was initially thought to largely spare children, but now the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention warns the rate of coronavirus cases among children has been steadily increasing. A new report by the American Academy of Pediatrics finds almost 180,000 new cases of coronavirus among U.S. children over a 4-week period starting July 9th. That's a 90% increase. The CDC says transmission of the virus may have been reduced among children earlier in the pandemic because of school closures and lockdowns. Experts say increased testing, a rise in cases among the general population, and a return to summer camps and schools this summer could explain the spike in cases among children.
Fortunately, most children do not get very sick, and in fact, most children may be asymptomatic. But there is always a small proportion of children who do get sick.
While children rarely need to be hospitalized for COVID-19, the CDC says pediatric hospitalizations are increasing. 1 in 3 hospitalized children are admitted to the ICU. Most have underlying conditions. President Trump responded to the new data.
It may be a case, but it's also a case where there's a tiny fraction of death, tiny fraction, and they get better very quickly.
That is true, but children are not totally immune.
Yes, it's much less severe than it is in adults, particularly older adults. But we all have to take this virus seriously, including taking care of our children.
The new data comes as parents and educators are debating whether to return to school in person or remotely. There are many lingering questions like what role children play in transmitting the virus. The data is ambiguous. A report out of South Korea suggests children under the age of 10 don't transmit the virus as often as adults. But another report finds that young children carry heavier viral loads than adults. It's unclear what that means they're more likely to pass on the virus. But what is clear is all this uncertainty is making reopening schools much more complicated. Karina Huber, CGTN, New York.
That's all with the news and reports on Myanmar Today Review. We'll be back next week. Thank you for watching.